Russia election 2024. Putin of Russia celebrates triumph in election that many see as fraudulent. Preliminary figures indicate that Putin received approximately 87% of the vote, which is the greatest percentage in post-Soviet Russia. A landslide election triumph for Russian President Vladimir Putin has solidified his hold on power, despite widespread criticism of the victory's democratic legitimacy. Putin used his post-election news conference to claim victory for his invasion of Ukraine and defiance of Western norms. "No one has ever succeeded in anything like this in history," Putin declared in an address from his campaign headquarters early on Monday morning, despite the fact that his opponents had repeatedly tried and failed to frighten and silence him and his people. Both thus far and going forward, it has been unsuccessful. Absolutely not. Preliminary results showed that Putin will continue his nearly quarter-century rule for another 6 years, as expected, just after the last votes closed on Sunday. With over 60% of precincts counted, he received almost 87% of the vote, according to Russia's Central Election Commission. The outcome signifies that Putin, who is 71 years old, would surpass Joseph Stalin as the longest-serving leader in Russia in over 200 years. A little under 4% of the vote went to communist candidate Nikolai Karatanov, with newcomer Vladislav Devankov taking third and ultranationalist Leonid Slutsky placing fourth, according to preliminary figures. The national turnout, which surpassed 67.5% in 2018, was 74.22% when polls closed, according to election officials. The fact that Putin's detractors are either dead, in exile, or behind bars, and that he has successfully silenced public critique of his rule, ensured his win. In a prison in the Arctic, Alexei Navalny passed away last month. He was the most visible opponent of the Russian leader. Putin, who first came to power in 1999 as a former KGB lieutenant colonel, hopes the outcome will show the West that Russia will remain a formidable adversary for a long time, war or peace. According to the U.S., the vote was not fair or free. "The elections are plainly not free nor fair considering how Mr. Putin has imprisoned political opponents and banned others from competing against him," stated the White House's National Security Council spokesperson. The voting did not look like free and fair elections, according to British Foreign Secretary David Cameron's X tweet. "This election fraud has no validity and cannot have any," claimed President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. This election took place almost 2 years after the worst conflict in Europe since World War II, Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, had place. Russians opposed to Putin demonstrated in large numbers on Sunday, but no impartial count of the country's 114 million registered voters was available. The Noon Against Putin demonstration was an appeal from Navalny's supporters to all Russians. Putin mentioned Navalny at his press conference, stating that he had backed a plan to free him in return for inmates in Western nations, the first time he has done so since his death. "I agreed before the other person could finish speaking," Putin explained. The resignation of Russian President Boris Yeltsin led to Putin's nomination as acting president. He went on to win the presidency twice, in 2000, his first, and 2004, his second. Putin avoided the constitutional restriction on serving more than 2 consecutive terms as head of state by returning to his role as prime minister in 2008 after 2 stints as president. He did, however, win a 4th term in 2018 after a 2012 return to the presidency.